Righty. Hi, everyone. I'm Byron, and I'm also here with my good friend, Tom. So I'm going to say hi, Tom.
Hello, everybody.
So just like you, we both are coming from other meetings, and we didn't have really time to kind of go through this like we would normally go through it. So I'm going to be honest with you. We're really excited to share with you what we have today. And Tom, you want to kind of give them a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be talking about today?
Well, first of all, when we use the word strategy, we mean what are we counting on to win? And it's our opinion that in business and in life, people and relationships is the way to win in happiness, fulfillment, and success.
And we're going to be talking about kind of how all that fits together for this idea of a people strategy. So again, to piggyback on what Tom just said, if a strategy is what we are counting on to win, it is what we are counting on to win as it pertains to the people in our companies in order for them to do the work that we need them to do in the way that we want them to do it, that is beneficial to them, and it's beneficial to our customers, and it's also beneficial to the company. And this is all a part of what Optimax Talent does. As you can see here, Tom is an executive trainer and coach, and I'm an executive coach, and we are both the co-founders of Optimax Talent. And we've been at this, Tom, for a little over a year, right?
That's correct. And I met Byron at a networking group, and we knew we shared the same value. And at the core of that is people matter, and anything we can do to help people work together better, we're all in.
Yeah, really, that the whole idea of that resonant message, and really this is what one of the things that Tom's alluding to about our values. We have a very strong value alignment, because we believe that people absolutely matter. And I love the idea of it is through the cooperation of people, business gets done. Any thoughts, Tom?
Anything you want to accomplish in life requires the cooperation of other people. And why not do it in a way that they want to cooperate rather than just getting compliance, making people do things? That works in the short run, but it's exhausting and it's not efficient or effective.
So just to kind of be emphatic with this, and just for the purpose of the demonstration and the learning, and you could even be listening to this, not necessarily watching along, but we want to just say emphatically, all business goals are identified through the cooperation of people. All innovation and creation are created and developed through the cooperation of people. All production and delivery are executed through the cooperation of people. All marketing and sales are delivered through the cooperation of people. All relationships are built through the cooperation of people. All financial management and analysis happen through the cooperation of people. The point is, you take people out, just like what we've been saying on Thursdays with helping managers win. You take managers out, it doesn't work. You take your people out, it's the same thing. And it's not just about throwing things. What is it? It's spaghetti, right, Tom? I mean, spaghetti and I don't even know where this came from, but you throw a string of spaghetti up against, and I've done it. I've literally done this up against a wall to see if it's cooked. I mean, I can't think that that's actually a good strategy, which you're counting on to win to make good spaghetti. But we kind of
I never knew you actually did that, Byron.
I've done it more than once. So the point is that this. We hear it all the time. Our people are our greatest investment, but they're not dice. And I think that we tend to throw people at the problem. We tend to, we need to hire someone. We tend to throw things against the wall to see if they stick, like spaghetti. And I'm sure it has to do with, someone's going to be able to tell me it has to do with the starch, and whether or not how much, whether or not the starch is cooked enough so that the spaghetti sticks to the wall or not. The point is that that's not a very good strategy. And if you're counting on, if your strategy and what you're counting on to win is to basically throw people at the problem, then that ends up, it's not your greatest investment. That ends up becoming your greatest crapshoot. Any thoughts, Tom?
I just want to add one thing. You'll notice that Byron said, I've done it more than once, and we're all going to do that, but it's the things that keep recurring, and it's doing the same thing over and over again, like the definition of insanity. So if you're having recurring people problems, perhaps that's our bias, but at least investigate it. Perhaps you need a new people strategy.
Hmm. And the whole point of you with the metaphor of even of today, of the idea of gambling with your people strategy, that's not a good strategy long term, because when you think about your greatest risk, when you don't know for sure of who you have on your teams, as far as what I mean by that is that, do you really know who you've hired? Do you know that they're in the right role? Do you know that your leaders can lead? And I think that the idea of because both Tom and I are going to come at this from a very pragmatic perspective of, let's get the data, let's get the people data, so that we know, so that when going back to the idea of people are our greatest investment, they are so incredibly important. Well, if that's true and you believe that, then let's get them assessed so that we know, what their personality or what their behaviors are, so that we can put them in the right role. Tom, walk us through this, if you would, please.
So at the core of this is the idea that alignment is the key to better work, and better work is the key to a better world, a better you. And when we think of business strategy, most executives can articulate the business strategy. Not always very well, and that's for another web session, but they can at least articulate it. And when you go to the other side of the equation, you'll see business results, and that's where your SMART goals live. And they can pretty much say, we want to increase revenue by X% or whatever the results are. But in the middle, like Byron just said, where everything happens, it's a mess in there in terms of how clear are we on our strategy. And the repetition on the left side is very intentional. It's not redundant. It's all about aligning, because you look at a company that's winning and ones that not, they have jobs, they have careers, they have teams. They certainly have an organization with the lanyard that has their name and their logo. But if we are to align the powerful people to the work and to the culture, we're going to produce better results. And it's about increasing the return on people investment, because people are your biggest cost. And if you do people strategy well, they're your biggest source of increase. And so the motto really is that by better people strategy, you can increase return on your people investment.
And I mean, Tom and I spent a lot of time thinking through how to communicate this, and hopefully it's coming through. But the idea of getting it right is the idea of when you do shoot an arrow at a target, and you're using a bow, you're going to pull back on the string, and you're going to let the arrow fly through the air. I remember when I was a kid, I went to a youth group where the leader actually did that, and this was when I was in I think it was the summer before my 9th grade year in high school. So I was technically I finished 8th grade. So I went to this youth group thing, and the guy shot the arrow over everyone's head. There's no way you could do that today because it's too dangerous, but it was a real arrow, and he had a real target, and it flew over our heads. And the whole point of him and this illustration is that his intent was to get a bullseye, was to get the arrow right smack dab in the middle of the bullseye. And what he had an illustration, and there's a Greek word he used that talked about how when you actually miss the bullseye, you get it wrong, and you kind of miss the mark. then the whole message was about missing the mark, and that really resonated with me because I was a pretty good boy, but I also recognized that I missed the mark. So this idea of alignment, of a better world through better alignment, that is what Tom and I are passionate about, of helping you help your company, help your people, help your teams, help your leaders be better aligned so that everyone can win. And a part of that is this idea of the journey of increasing awareness, because like what Tom just said about leveraging people data, and it's also about executing strategy, because when you go back and you look at this is a strategy. This does give you a plan. I mean, you look at we're not going to necessarily go deeply into these today, but the higher inspired design diagnose, those are all a part of the predictive index, and that is absolutely a phenomenal strategy to win with your people. But all of this is about how can we, when we begin, where do we begin? And what we believe, if you're going to leverage people data, and going back to the notion of we have people, but if you have people, it's like what Tom said earlier. All companies have jobs, careers, teams, and organizations, 100%, and everyone has that. The point is if you have people and you're not measuring, you don't have the data, then you're not going to be able to know about and give them tools and give them handles to hold on to that enable them to have increased self-awareness, increased others' awareness, and increased team awareness. What do you think, Tom?
Well, if you go back to the previous slide, I would just add one thing that's obvious and important is in the middle, it's a dynamic system. And so we won't, but you could put the word realignment under every one of those alignments and recognize that this isn't an event, it's a process. And too many times we'll have a strategic meeting and everybody says this is exactly what we needed. And then a year later they say, well, it didn't really work. It's because it has to become a commitment, a practice. So the awareness is the starting point, but we need to go from awareness to execution. And there's a tendency to go back and do what we've always done. So it's alignment, it's dynamic, and it requires committing time and space to look at the current situation, the desired situation, the obstacles, internal, external, real and imagined, and be willing to realign.
I love this. And this, I hadn't thought of sharing this, but I'm going to share this. I mean, when my daughters, who are now, in their mid-20s, when my daughters were driving, they were both driving the same car, and it was a car I wasn't driving very often, but they both, it was my car. I paid for it. I put gas in it, all that stuff. But I remember going to the tire, our mechanic, the person that does mechanical stuff, but also puts on tires. We got the car aligned, and whenever we would have to have some sort of issues, because I'm looking at the tire wear, it's kind of boring stuff. But the point is, I could totally tell that the alignment was off. And when I would get in the car, if I was going to go fill it with gas or whatever, because my girls are just in high school and they're driving, I could just tell that when you let go of the steering wheel, it's like someone took the wheel, and all of a sudden you got this surge to the left or to the right. So I had taken it to the mechanic, and the mechanic says, "Well, it needs alignment." I said, "Well, look," I said, "you just aligned it a couple months ago." Well, I don't know what to tell you. Well, why? Why is it so out of line? So, well, we found out that one of our daughters, when the way she was parking a car, she was consistently running into a curb. And she didn't think it was a big deal. Oh, big deal. I'm running over a curb and coming back to every single time she would hit the curb, just a little itty bitty bit of misalignment occurred. And over the course of weeks and in a month, it was significant. I don't know if that was normal or not, but the point is that to Tom's point, this is a process. It's not an event. It's not a one-time thing. It's about having the vision to get it right, to look for the bullseye, and to want to make sure that you're on the right heading, and you want to be aligned. You want to have better alignment. Any thoughts, Tom?
Well, I like the metaphor. And if you're in Chicago, we don't have to blame your daughter because of the potholes. Alignment has to happen more frequently. And not to beat it to death, but just to add one thing, which is if your car's a little out of alignment, it's not very noticeable and it's not yet dangerous, but it's already making it run poorly, use gas inefficiently. And at a certain point, it becomes dangerous. And we can say the same thing with people strategy on a team. You can get away with a little bit of it. You're not going to do your best work, but you don't necessarily have people quitting, or you don't have to fire people. But over time, it does more than lose money and efficiency. You lose engagement, and then the game's over.
And that's really the bottom line offer that we would like to be able to have a conversation with anyone about how can we help you with your alignment. And that's really the bottom line. And as I said earlier, just a little bit about the idea of what this does is that this is all about increasing that awareness that we have as individuals, because it starts at an individual level and then it grows and it kind of emanates from the self to other people, then the team. But it's all about leveraging that people data. But if you don't have the data, you can do some of this work. Sure, you could use DISC, or you could use the 5 behaviors, or the 5 dysfunctions of a team. That all becomes helpful, but it's not the same of using behavioral data, especially when it's paired with a very powerful software like the predictive index. But here's the challenge. The question is, how can we bring best-in-class coaching and training to our leaders? And this is an example. This picture is an example of one of our leaders. And look at all the demands that he is facing. And the question is, or the kind of the challenge is, are traditional leadership development programs enough to equip our leaders for today's challenges? And I think that when you look at how overwhelmed most of our managers, most of our leaders are. I mean, I was in conversations with several different folks who have. I mean, one particular person has 27 different direct reports. I have no idea how he does his job. But when you have 27 people that are clamoring for your attention, you talk about limited time and resources. I mean, this guy hardly has any time at all. But the point is, the traditional methods, they lack real-time, data-driven insights for any kind of personalized feedback. And that's what we can help with. What are your thoughts, Tom, about the challenge?
Well, I just, as a person who loves and came from classroom training and have been engaged with some of the world-class best training, and the model was pretty much you go in sometimes 3 to 5 days and it's excellent. And then you go back to the quote real world and not much of it sticks. A little better than your spaghetti, but not necessarily a lot better. And they don't know how they're doing with it. So then, being pendulum kind of creatures, they go to the opposite extreme. Let's just do it online and let's make everything digital and have people self-pace. Well, you save the time, but you still don't have the accountability and you still don't have metrics to know how she did with the training. So we're recognizing we need a new approach that transcends yet includes all of the good things that came before, because it wasn't, I've heard people say, well, training's a waste of time. We tried that and it didn't work. Well, to quote a former president, let's define what it is. And continuous learning is essential. And we can't take off work for a month to do it. So that's our dilemma. That's our challenge. And Byron and I and other colleagues are determined to bring the best of both worlds. It's not either or, it's and both.
I think with that and both, or the both and, is this idea of bringing the best in class of coaching and training to you. And again, increasing the skills of the folks that you have in leadership roles while they still perform their job. So it is about a commitment to continuous improvement. It is about a commitment to continual soft skill development. It is a commitment to the idea of being mindful that there are always going to be those shortfalls and leadership gaps, and we need to have something that we can help our leaders, because the idea of having the traditional classroom type training, the the time and intensive type training. Some companies still do some of that, but it's really like what Tom said. It's a and both, or a both and solution, as far as what we want to be able to kind of discuss with you today. So that this notion of when we think about how we can help, we believe that we want to kind of introduce this concept of the Leadership Lab. So walk us through that, if you would, Tom.
Well, I just want to add also the word to the last slide. You don't have to go back there. Well, thank you for going. It's another form of alignment. We're doing a lot of work in the well-being space. And in the well-being space, you can make a business case for it. So somebody might be with their educational stipend, they might be doing an art class in the morning. And if they can align it back to how it gives them the peace of mind and the expression so they can be more focused, then it ought to be encouraged. But we are a business, and everything needs, we can't just stick some foosball tables in the middle and say everything's fine. Or pop pill. So I just want to say the solution to the dilemma is a holistic system. And within that is that word again and again and again of align and realign so that we can do better work. So the Leadership Lab is the idea that you diagnose at the individual, the team, the culture level, and you come up with holistic, systematic vision, but you don't wait till that's all in place to put out a fire. There's our either or and both. So you'll all receive a copy of our roadmap for participating in this today, and you will see we want to meet you where you are and bring you somewhere. And so the word lead means go before. And so we go before where we are in vision. But it's not just go before in vision. That's a starting place. It's modeling it. So you say, what kind of practices over time would support this? And how can we get those practices happening more? But you're always recognizing we want leaders at every level, and we have a very definitive way of defining the difference between leadership and management. They aren't two different people, but they're two different mindsets in the same person, and we need both. And the important point I want to make here is data-driven and real time going together. And the power of AI allows us to keep feedback real time. And then you collect the data so that the person that gets the data can improve her conversation the very next meeting. But then the company knows we have a lot of meetings that are just pushing out information. And we can use technology to start seeing trends and address them, not all at once, even though we're looking holistic, but we should consider them all at once, and then we should sequence them. And the data allows us to do that. Without data, it'd be virtually impossible. Everybody would go with their own intuition. So these are exciting times.
Yeah, so what we're presenting, this concept of the Leadership Lab, is this ability to leverage technology through through tools like artificial intelligence, through tools like the predictive index, so AI and PI, leveraging the technology of those tools to help you develop your people to be more on target for what you're wanting them to accomplish in their role. So the idea of this, providing actionable feedback, that there isn't any iffiness, or it's completely objective. It's 100% accurate, and it's actionable. And because of the way that the technology is built, it's scalable. You can have, if you have a company of 1,000 leaders, you can have 1,000 people go through this at the exact same time. It is that scalable. So the Leadership Lab is holistic, systematic, data-driven, real-time, and it provides this actionable feedback. It also fosters a culture of accountability, where when you because feedback in coaching is king. You take feedback out, you don't have the information, you have the data. But we're not only going to be able to give you the behavioral data, behavioral science, as far as with the behavioral assessment from the predictive index, you'll have that. That creates a component of accountability and culture. But it also, with this AI tool, we're going to give you the ability to have real actionable feedback that helps the leader in real time, literally almost immediately following the meeting that they just had on Microsoft Teams. They know exactly what area and how to adjust maybe their next meeting in order to improve on their ability to be a better leader. Any thoughts about that?
Well, I just want to zoom out because there's a lot of people thinking that technology will solve the problem, but mindset precedes technology. We use the word leveraging technology because if we don't have a mindset that's asking the question, how can we continuously work better together? Then all this data is just bits of information. And some people we've talked to are getting better at collecting data, but they don't really have a strategy for using that data to create better work. So we start with the big picture. And I think it'd be good for everybody listening just to think of their world and recognize there's untapped people power on your team, in your organization. And I look in the mirror, I'm looking at my tile, not Byron's, in me. And if we can really acknowledge that, then we can use the data ethically to help us have a conversation. But you need to have the intention before you have the data, or you need Noah's Ark, because a 7-year-old has more information today than Plato ever had. But information without formation never can lead to transformation. And accountability is key. High-performing teams aren't smarter, better looking, or better human beings than lower performing teams, but they have a higher level of accountability and agreement, and you can foster it, and it will pay financial dividends, emotional dividends, spiritual dividends, even physical dividends.
Really well said. We believe that the Leadership Lab can also help you measure your return on your people investment. It's going to give you the ability to track key coaching metrics based on coaching best practices. It's going to give you the ability to have an ROI through these data-driven insights. Like I said just a second ago, right after the Microsoft Teams meeting is over, they generally have another meeting, but at some point they're going to have that instant feedback that creates that accountability and that action plan, so that they know how to have a continuity, but also this idea of continuous improvement. And really what that leads to is this idea of optimized leaders. And I'm gonna read the Lao Tzu quote. I didn't read the other quotes. This is one of my favorite quotes about leadership. A leader is best when people barely know he or she exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will all say, "We did it ourselves." And that is really true. That's also one of the things that connect Tom and I, is this idea of being service or servant oriented in our leadership, as far as kind of what we believe. And what Tom even said earlier is that leaders at every level, they embody a cultural value. So you know what your company values are, and you see and understand the importance of developing others. It's not just about the ego or about the talent. It's about, it's about extracting that talent and leveraging the talent, but also it's about the team, and you empower your leaders to reach their full potential. So the idea that proven leadership provides communication strategies, and that's what we would like to say are these leaders who are optimized. They're optimized leaders. Any thoughts, Tom?
No, I'm perfectly aligned with that. That's well said. Keep rolling.
Okay. And one other thing, as far as the idea of leveraging the cutting edge technology, is that it can transform your organization with, like what Tom said earlier, this data driven approach. So it's not just, two guys, giving you training and coaching. It's not that. It's, we're two guys that can give you training. We actually have more people on our team than just us, but we have actually a fairly large bench of world-class experts. But we also have data through the predictive index and data through the AI powered, bot that joins your meetings and helps you become a better coach. All of this is to drive innovation, engagement, and success within the context of this leadership lab. And this is what the leadership lab looks like as far as just kind of graphically. Walk us through this, Tom?
Sure. So I think if you just glance at this, I don't want to go through this in detail. We'd be delighted to take anybody through it. But the key points we want to make here is it's a dynamic system, as we said before. And we want to put out the fires as well as create strategies so they recur less as an upset. And it's really about understanding the parts and the system. We can't just understand the system. It's like if your body, the word corporation is the same Latin root as body. And so a body has many members and they all have different versions of this. But what we see with predictive index is each human being is unique. There is nobody like you, but there are patterns. And when we address patterns, indeed, all of marketing is based on that. And the gambling we talked about before, the house isn't gambling. They don't know if Byron's going to win or not, but they know if there's X number of people that are playing these machines, they're going to have X amount going out the door, and they can predict it. Thus, it's called predictive indexes. We can predict many human behaviors, not all of them, and we can address the needs underlying them. So this is the whole system. And at the center is the idea, data for each area and strategies for each area, all folded under one big business strategy and one big people strategy. And I really think that's enough detail, but this is what differentiates Optimax Talent is this leadership lab approach, which is how we're addressing the dilemma. Should we do training or shouldn't we do training? And the answer is yes, sometimes. and to help to know where it fits in your goals, in your aspirations, in your culture, and help you to align the pieces.
So we just invite you to go to the Optimax Talent website. We'd love to have you take the predictive index at no cost to you. We'd even be willing to meet with you one-on-one to go over your results and also talk about your teams. Bottom line is that, like what Tom just said, we believe that people are important, and this is just how we believe we can help you optimize your talent is by leveraging people data, and there also happens to be leveraging that technology of AI. It's kind of like what Tom referred to earlier is a and both or a both and. It's both. It's leveraging the technology of an AI that has been built from the world-class, best-in-class coaching, and also from one of the best behavioral assessments on the planet, the predictive index. It's a combination of those two things, leveraging the data, leveraging that information to help you optimize your talent is what we're about. So we'd like to help, and we'd like to have the opportunity to have a conversation with you. Any last thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, last thought I have there is if you go to the slide before, I just want to make it clear that any individual can take the assessment, but if you're interested in taking a small team of people through it, we will do it, no obligation, a strategy session, so you can start to understand our approach and see how it fits in your goals.
Very well said. And thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And we'll be back with you again next month at the end of the month, and we'll go through this again. And until then, feel free to reach out to us at any time. We'd love to have a chance to talk with you and connect with you. You take care.
Thank you.